I am on the highest altitude Roman road in Britain called High Street in the Lake District. It's not called High Street because there's coffee shops, but because it is literally the highest altitude Roman road in the UK. So this is Brocavum. The fort at Brocavum was built in AD 70 under Emperor Flavius, and it was initially a marching fort, so it would have just been earthworks, then wood, and then slowly stone. The reason why there's barely anything there, or partly why, is that the nearby Broome Castle, built in the 13th century, nicked some of the stone. There's actually a Roman gravestone in the roof there with still Latin inscribed on it, on the name. So this is the Mayburgh Henge. It's just nearby to Brocavum, the Roman fort, so they would have been able to keep an eye on the locals here, the local barbarians. It predates to about 2,000 to 3,000 BC, so it was here long before the Romans arrived. And according to the archaeologists, there used to be 8 stones here, but there's only 1 now, so someone nicked them. The only bad thing about this route is the initial section is on a main road. It is so much quieter here off the main road. I can actually hear myself think. This whole area was under the control of the Brigantes tribe. They were the largest tribe here in northern England, and their territory stretched from the south of Scotland down to the north of the Midlands. And they were horse breeders, metal workers, farmers. Initially under their queen they were friendly, and the Brigantes were a client kingdom to the Romans. But her husband rebelled, and this soon became a conquest. 2 Roman legions were sent up north. There was the 20th on the west side with Agricola, and on the east there was the 9th Legion, which famously went missing in Scotland, which is a whole different story. Each legion had, just watching my footing going through a bog, each legion had 5,500 men, which meant that there were 11,000 legionaries in total here. That would have been approximately half the size of the local population here. So the people must have been terrified. By AD 73, the Brigantes were conquered and were a functioning part of the Roman Empire. Down there is Pulley Bridge, and just across from there, in the group of trees on the hill, is an Iron Age fort called Dunmallard Hill. Apparently it means fort of the slaughter. If anyone knows if that's due to the Romans or from before, please let me know. Stilton pork pie. We are officially on the road. Some of the Roman routes that we still use today, there's the M6 from north to south and the A66 up here, which crosses east to west. High Street is the highest altitude Roman road, and there's a bit of an anomaly because unlike most Roman roads, it goes across a high ridge line on an older track that predates them. But historians think that down below in the valleys there was forest and marsh, so it made sense to go along the top so they could avoid any ambushes. Absolutely nothing to do with the Romans, but whoever built these dry stone walls is an absolute legend. I did a tiny amount of dry stone walling as a teenager for a job, and I can't imagine what it was like doing it up here on top of these fells and harsher conditions. It's estimated that a Roman legionary could march approximately 15 to 20 miles per day, and on a paved road more, 25 to 30 miles. And they would carry an approx weight of everything, including their armour, their weapons, their equipment, of something from 26 kilos to 35 kilos. They did this with a wooden pole called a furca, which hanging off it was their pack, the sarcina. Just over my shoulder is Helvellyn, and further back behind that is Scafell Pike. Absolutely incredible. You can see all of the fells today. One of the main reasons that the Romans were here in the Lake District was mining, and the key element that they were after was lead. Since Roman times, this has become a sheep and grass monoculture in the last 300 years. However, in the 18th and 19th centuries, there were local fairs held up here on High Street. And apparently on the 12th of July, stray sheep would be returned, which is nice. So you might be wondering why the Roman road is not straight. Well, there's a couple of things going on. One is that this is not a classic Roman road. There was already a route here, so the Romans used that. So it's not made from scratch. And it followed the highest ridge line here and was used since prehistoric times. The second thing is that although Roman roads were straight, one thing people often forget is that they were angular. So they had straight sections and then they would go off at a different angle. So Roman surveyors were in charge of laying the routes, and they used a tool called a groma, which was the main instrument in making these roads. By the time I got to the top of High Street, the light was starting to fade and I had to put my head down and get a shift on. I put the GoPro on to record some of the sections. I had thought about camping at Blee Water, but it seemed like too much of a detour when I was there. So I decided to push on down towards Hag Gill with my head torch on. had to make a bit of a late camp last night as it was getting dark and I'd faffed around taking pictures and videos for too long. One thing I didn't discuss yesterday, which hopefully you can see in the videos, is that the Roman road in parts is impacted with layers of gravel, and this is over a cambered embankment known as an agger. And this process is called metalling, which comes from the Latin metallum, which means the quarry. And the local material is boulder clay here, which forms a kind of cement. And in some of the high sections yesterday over High Street, there's quite a contrast between the very hard Roman road and then the boggy terrain either side. These are Herdwick sheep, which are unique to the Lake District, a local breed. So shepherds here in the Lake District actually count in a dialect of Norse, which is related to the Vikings that settled in this part of Cumbria in northwest England. Wild garlic just beginning. After a couple of pints of delicious Lake District beer, I did have a few epiphanies. The fort sits right beside Lake Windermere, suggesting supplies may have arrived by boat from the south. It was also linked west to the Roman port of Ravenglass, with Hardknott Fort guarding the mountain route in between. The most prominent buildings here are the granaries, suggesting Galava may have been an important storage hub supplying Roman forces in the Lake District.